Hi everyone, it's Louis Fernandez here with the LRF Group with Berkshire Hathaway, and welcome to one of our new sessions on the first quarter of apples to coconuts. We're talking about the market, not only how it affects Miami and New York. The reason why we have offices in both those major cities. I've got my associate and my good friend Daniel Hall. I like to say he's my man in Havana, but he's actually my man in Manhattan. Daniel, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Good morning, Lou. How you doing?
Doing very well. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're busy. You've had a really crazy week. And by the way, for disclosure, we haven't rehearsed anything. We've been both running around like realtors are always. In the before you know it, the week catches up to you, and so here we are. But I did wanted to at least talk to you, and if you can give us an update of what's going on in New York. How's the market in the first quarter? What are you seeing? What's your feedback there from your customers?
Yeah,
So
great.
let us know all the information.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks, Lou. It's always a pleasure joining you and being with you, and I appreciate it. Really things have kind of, I don't want to say taking a turn, but certainly kind of pulled the reins back a little bit now. Just on a weekly standpoint, before even getting into the quarter, contract sales, contract signings from just the previous week are down 19%. So it's been a pretty drastic drop. So I mean, now of course that was not a holiday weekend. This week I'm sure it's gonna be even worse with the holiday just right around the corner here. But overall for the quarter, sales are up. It was about 37%, I believe, 36% as far as units closed.
Right.
We had a 36% increase from the previous year. But now for the past 6 months in a row, six months or so, the contract signings have been declining. So it's kind of a strange thing in New York. We had a full office meeting about it yesterday, and it's a type of thing where we're seeing supply increase, contract signings are decreasing, but prices are still kind of going up. So it was a little bit of an odd situation where you're seeing price reductions happen, but in certain key markets, certain key price categories, you're seeing this increase. So it's like these hot spots. I mean, in particular, like the $3 to $4 million range. Average home sale in New York is still about $2 million, but it's just been a really amazing shift. The rental market has come back very strong, so I think that's also a reason for the sales.
Right.
So it's been a pretty wild roller coaster ride as far as just kind of riding this market and seeing how things are up and down.
Right. So you think it's clearly I was looking at a report on the nation level. The first quarter we've seen again drop in sales, and I
Yeah.
think it's one of the lowest since the last 2 years in terms of sales. So
Yeah.
um, I guess the factor here is what the rising rates of the interest rates. We're I think currently at 5.5% right now, and that's that and when people say that's the norm, it's actually with the person that has excellent credit, that meets all the right specifics, and those who don't, their rates are higher. They're pushing close to six.
That's right.
So you think that's impacted our market for sure.
I do, without a doubt, without a doubt. It all has to balance out. And you have your average family, middle class family. Two people working in the household. When those interest rates rise, that really has an effect on that median price income that those families are bringing in.
Hmm.
So, that extra 500 a month, 400 a month in interest fee is going to impact. So, typically you'd want to see prices coming down, but we're not seeing it as strongly as we would anticipate. So that's where we're thinking the market's kind of really slowing, because when you have prices up and interest rates up, now you disqualify so many buyers. And that's what we're feeling like, it's pushing the rental market higher because people are not able to qualify for the financing at this point.
And how's the rental market? Because New York is with the rent control issue over there, and there's a shortage of rental apartments and things of that nature in the city. What's the agenda? What's the mayor, and I mean how they're going to address that? Because as you say, as potential buyers, ship back to the rental side of of the real estate side, and there's not availability. I mean, what's going to happen there? I mean,
It's a good question, and it's really yet to be seen because there's such a battle going on. I just feel like we're overpopulated at this point. So we certainly have a housing shortage. We
right,
need more housing. There's definitely not enough housing for everyone. But right now, we're still dealing with a huge crime wave and the subway system here. And all of this is unfortunately impacting us in a negative way because
right,
at this point, only 8% of the workforce is back 5 days a week. So you still have very much of a hybrid situation back. People do not want to be in the office full time. So with only 8% back, it's just like, okay, so what's happening? So now we don't have all the corporate back. And so now people want to work from home more. So, and so this whole thing is just a real problem. And, they're trying to raise rents, which I understand on certain levels, because obviously landlords have high taxes, high carrying costs. But in the same sense, salaries have not increased with the rate of inflation and cost. So it's a real problem. The mayor really has some big situations on his hand. I mean, it's every day on the news talking about different things, and it's a real battle. But I think there's a happy ground to it. They are putting up a lot of affordable housing, a lot of these new developments, commercial developments. Part of those structures need to have a housable affordable housing, built into the whole project.
right.
Um, but now what you're getting, even where my building is, I'll say Billionaires Row, where our building, you're a part of New York as well,
Hmm.
right on 57th and Madison, just up the road, they're putting, affordable housing right in the base of one of the buildings. So I'm not opposed to that. I think it's, but I just think they need to really think of how they're laying this out. They're putting structures in places where I don't necessarily think they should go because it's just too much of a mix of people. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, it's really a
Yeah,
challenging thing.
it's crazy, and I think also too, of course, the inflation is there. Inflation is causing people to think twice, in terms of their expenditures, as
Right.
well as the continued problem with the supply chain issue, right? And the cost of construction, cement, lumber has come down a little bit, but overall, construction costs is still way too high.
Right.
There is a demand for more housing. I mean, I think there's a shortage of 5 million homes across the country. For us to catch up with that, it's going to take some years. It's not going to
That's right.
happen over months. So um, you know, people still need a place to live, right? And the same thing what's happening here in Miami. For example, down here in Miami, the first quarter we saw 16% increase in appreciation rate in single family homes. In the condo market, we saw a 25% increase, which is, I mean, the condo market has taken off here in Miami, and for the same
Yeah.
reason, buyers can't afford single family homes now. They're moving over to the condo market, and they're coming in there, in droves. Uh, but we also have a high rental market here as well. If you're going to rent in a condominium or a single family home, the tenant's going to pay top dollar.
Mhm.
They actually passed here in Miami the Tenants Bill of Rights Act by the mayor, and that basically has given some protection to tenants in terms of being able how they can negotiate with their landlords, during the course of the lease. And I think the trend here is eventually they may want to emulate what's happening in New York to do the rental control. I hope not, because to be honest with you, I think rent control is not it's not the solution for the tenant, and it's definitely not the solution for the landlords because it takes away the incentive of developers, right, to build more rental communities, and then so tenants then are competing with limited in terms of space and units available out there in the market. So, I don't think that we want to emulate necessarily what's been done in New York, because I think what we have to do is give more incentives to developers to build, right? I think more affordable housing. That's what you do. That's how you bring back, encourage the private sector to come in and invest. New York last year was the number one. Florida. I mean, in terms of Florida, we were more New Yorkers coming to Florida than any other state. And I think there were about 67,000 New Yorkers settled here last year, and half of them settled down in South Florida. So it gives you an idea. New York, I think, lost about 200 212 people. I mean, they're losing about 212 people a day. They're losing. It's a net loss. That's you can't sustain that, right? I mean, and compared to Florida, we're gaining over 1,000 plus people moving in here in the state of Florida on a daily basis. I don't know if we can sustain that either. It's like, it's crazy. Hey, your mic is off. Let me, Daniel. I think we're having an issue with your mic. Now let's see here. I have a little. Oh, lost him. Well, this happens on live feed. I guess we get the contact. Let me see if I can get him back here for a second. Yeah, I think we lost Daniel there. I think the communication up was lost here. Oh, he's back again. Let's see if we get him here. Daniel. All right, I see you, but I can't. Good. Well, I think we're having some bad issue here with contact. Hold on one second here. Let me just pause this here. Well, that's what happens when you're on live. Everything can go crazy on you. Let's see if we can get him here. Just bear with me. All right. Dan, you're there? I can see you. I can't hear you. Let me see what's going on. Another problem was happening in New York. I think we got it's that the internet issue over there is getting worse too. Sorry, folks. Oh, he's back here. Hold on, let's see if we can get him on here. Okay.
I got you back.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, you went dark on me a little bit there.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Hey, listen.
I don't know what the heck happened.
Hey, this is what happens. When you go live. All right.
Yeah.
So anyway,
we'll edit this a bit. We'll take it. We'll just chop it up.
Don't worry about it. It's live. It's there. It's for the world to see. But we're good. So we're talking about in terms down here in South Florida, in terms of what's happening with the increases in the sales and the increase in the rental market. It's just there's a lack of affordability, and there isn't any. I don't see right now that tapering off. Now, clearly, I think that what we are seeing down here is we're seeing more contracts also falling apart, right? And the inventory is coming up again, which is a good thing for buyers. We're seeing that. And I think what's happening over in New York as well, it's typical what happens here or across the country, is that sellers they have a tendency to lag behind, right? So they're going to start having to make adjustment on the pricing and what they're asking for to compensate, because buyers are those that are out there are becoming much more finicky, and they have more options, right? To purchase. So if you're a seller, it's time to either to adjust prices. If you're getting a lot of showings and you're not getting offers, there's either something wrong with the property or the asking price, or a combination of the two. It's important that your realtor, homes in on that. You got to be ahead of the market. You
That's right.
can't be following it. You can't be chasing the market. You always got to be ahead of it. And when we're talking about ahead, we're talking about 2 to 3 months ahead, actually, almost a half a quarter to a quarter. In my assessment. What's your thoughts on that, Daniel?
I agree 100%. I think you're right on point. I think it's challenging now because now what you start to have. I'm just going through social media yesterday a little bit, and three videos came up, three different videos of kind of investment finance guys, all this saying how terrible it is right now to buy a house, kind of pushing people away from the market, that things are inflated and different options. So I just feel. I think it was coming up for a shift. I mean, let's face it, we've had record increases, especially coming off pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly can't sustain. But I just think that there's a happy medium to that, And I mean, that's what I feel. I feel like it's not where everybody all of a sudden gets nervous and pulls back now. Interest rates are coming up, but I just think it's more about making you never, look, we know we're in the business, so it's not to say, but real estate, very real, it may trickle down here and there, but on average, nationally, it's up 15% every 5 years. So say on conservative, 3% a year. In hot markets like us, we're typically conservative, looking at 6 to 9% gains. Like we said, you're seeing a 20% gain in condos the first quarter. Here it is a 36%. Obviously, that's not, but on average, it's always going to go up. So it's always a safe place. It's that American dream, and so I just think it's people need to be smart. They can't overextend. It's still always a great time to buy. It's
Right.
in my opinion, so I just think it's leveling itself off, but I don't think we're in any kind of trouble. I don't think we're in a housing crisis. I mean, I go back to rentals for a moment. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday. He's in a rent stabilized apartment, 2 bedroom, Upper East Side, $500 a month. So I felt like just that's unfair. Like $500 a month for a
That's
two
crazy.
bedroom.
That's
It's just
crazy.
unbelievable. So, there's just such an imbalance now. And you have folks, unfortunately, that take advantage of that. If someone's really in need of it, certainly we want to help folks. But, I just think that we have to get to a point. Everyone's just kind of, it's all crazy right now. But I
Well,
just think, yeah.
yeah, no, and I think and I think that's the issue there with the rent control problem, right? I mean, I've always said this. I think the road to hell is paved with good intentions,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
you think about the rent control and trying to minimize that aspect of it, but in the end, I think you end up hurting tenants and future tenants
Mhm.
because you disincentivize the developers from
Mhm.
getting into that business. They'll actually decide to either pick up their marbles and go somewhere else and to a different state or just deal with commercial offices or condo markets or whatever.
Yeah,
But to do rental buildings, they're not going to get in there because there's no profit.
yeah,
And then of course over time you actually create a slumlord situation because the
that's right.
landlords don't have enough money to keep up and update the properties.
Mhm.
And of course the tenants
This
are
is true.
unhappy because their units are falling apart, but there isn't the money there to fix it. So the government and cities have to, it has to be a balanced playing field so everyone can benefit, right?
Yeah,
And I understand it. Believe me, listen, the rent is out of control.
yeah,
The rent is under control, but I think by discouraging development and developers to build more rental buildings, you're not helping the people that you're actually trying to help, and those are the tenants. And
that's right.
so I think that we might be getting into that situation down here in South Florida, and that
Yeah.
concerns me as well. The other aspect of it. What are you telling your buyers right now and your sellers? What's the type of conversation are you guys having?
It's really where we're seeing, if we're seeing the property sit, I'm certainly recommending price reductions, So if you're on the market for 30 days, immediately I'm requesting a price reduction because you still should be sold within the first 30 days.
Right.
Buyers, I'm letting them know that really it's a good time, that there is a shift, the market is changing, and that there are still very motivated sellers out there. So they should take advantage of this. And, you know, uh, don't sit on the fences waiting because at the end of the day, the tax benefits from home ownership And just the idea of owning your own house, like people have a couple of units right now. Unfortunately, the landlord's selling, the tenants have to leave. So that's a very frustrating situation. I mean, it's two of my units. They're investors that own it. They're right downtown Manhattan at 88 Greenwich. So we just accepted one. Matter of fact, I had a home inspection on it yesterday when we were going to talk.
Great.
So both of those tenants are very frustrated right now because they're being, rerouted. So I'm encouraging them. Hey, instead of going to rent, why not purchase? With rents up as high as they are. So I'm trying to still encourage the buyers. Don't sit. Don't rent. Get out there. Purchase something, even if it's a small studio, whatever it is, and trying to just get them in home ownership. But with my sellers, I'm encouraging them as well, like you were saying earlier, to stay 2, 3 months ahead of the market. I'm letting them realize if we're not sold in the first 30 days, we've probably already missed the first price we've missed the mark already. So now we
Right.
have to be a little more aggressive to not have to do this again in 2 months. So,
Right.
they have to be ahead of that ball a little bit and keep that price. I'm a firm believer of pricing it just a little bit even below market value so that the buyers create that, you create that value that you get full price or over. But, the days of, leaving a lot of fat on that bone and putting a big fat listing price on there is not. You're going to sit. You're going to sit.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a smart move right now. If you have a property on the market, is to price it just below the current market value, because you want to get, you want buyers to be attracted to that particular property, and you want, and also to be able to present multiple offers. Right, that's a beautiful thing when you can do that with your client. So I think that's a
Right.
smart strategy, especially when we're currently in the shift. How much of a shift are we in? That's yet to remain to be seen.
Mhm.
There are some that are predicting there's going to be a market crash. I don't think that there's going to be a market crash. And so if you're a buyer and you say, well, let me wait for another 3 months or 6 months, I don't see that, because I think the problem that's still that needs to be resolved is a supply problem. We have a supply and demand issue here, right? And so you're going to have a lot of properties to get on the market to compensate for the supply,
Yeah.
concerns. Number one. Number two, if
Mhm.
you're a seller and you were thinking about selling your property and you're saying to yourself, look, when I bought my property maybe a few years, perhaps a few years ago, whatever, the rates were at 3%. Why should I sell my property? And then if I convert myself into a buyer, and unless I'm paying it in cash, I'm going to have to be looking at interest rates of 6 or 7%.
Mhm.
So you're going to have that segment of sellers that potential sellers are not going to sell it anymore. They're going to, what? They're going to look around and perhaps and say to themselves, I'm going to sit, here right now at least for the foreseeable future, because why am I going to expose myself to paying higher interest rates when my rate right now is very comfortable? And so
Exactly.
I think that also then embeds even more of a supply problem, right? For
Yeah.
for buyers. So I don't think that this is going to be. I think definitely that we're going to have a plateau. We're going to even out a little bit. We might have a dip there where if you're a buyer, hey, it's a great opportunity. But
Yep.
I don't see, unless there's something else out there. This is not a collapse of the market back in 2009, 10. This has nothing to do with so much with the rates. It has to do more with the supply and demand issue
Yeah.
more than anything else. Does that make sense? Or
100% it makes sense. And I totally agree. It was definitely a different market then. Back then they were giving all this money away. You were
sure,
able to get, no income, all this other stuff. So now they do have no income products, obviously, but it's still, the whole setup is very different. So I don't think we're being set up to fail here at all. I think things are still very solid. I just think there's a lot of people that with pandemic, there's still so much movement because of pandemic. And like I'm saying with the commercial, only 8% are actually back in the workforce full time. So to me, that means people still want that work from home environment. And so they're willing to go out, purchase something, knowing I have a hybrid situation. Let's get a little house, a little yard. and they want that, which I'm not opposed. I think it does bring back a certain quality of life. I mean, I'm in the office almost every day, but when I work from home, sometimes I'll be honest, it's enjoyable too. I don't mind not traveling and commuting, and sometimes I really like it. It's motivational and inspires me. You're in the city and you're doing it, but it's nice to have that hybrid situation, and I think that helps us in the housing industry.
Yeah, you're right. Listen, Daniel, listen, our time is almost up. Just a quick question here. Is most of your transactions still cash or financing, a combination of both? Number one, and number two, your buyers, where are they coming from?
So I'm still seeing a combination of all of it. My past three deals, one was cash, two were financing. Um, I just made one now. He's only 10% down. He's 90% financing, and he's a young guy. Out of college a couple of years, renting for a couple of years, looking to purchase it. So you're seeing up to 90%. Where I have someone actually moving from Florida now as well, and they're 50% down. So it's really still just a really good mix of everything. The buyers are just everywhere at this point still too. I mean, I can't really say. I mean, there's still a very large Asian population, which is kind of hitting New York in most of the areas, which has been fantastic. Great people and things. So I have that's been probably 7 of my last 10 deals have been let's say foreigners, but just of Asian descent.
Right.
And so it's really a combination, though. It's really something that's, I just am kind of riding this, and it's not a real niche kind of market. I have thankfully a good reach of clients and referrals that come in, and it's been everything across the board. But it's not all cash as much as it's been. I think
No,
that's
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well, listen. I don't need to tell you where. I mean, our buyers are coming from. They're actually coming. I mean, mostly from New York, and
sure,
after that from everywhere else across the country. So it's we're still getting a lot of people coming down here, and they're selling down here in Florida, and I think that trend's going to continue, for the foreseeable future as well. Hey,
yeah,
any new listing, any new properties you wanna give a shout out here or that?
yeah. I mean, we got a couple of things. I have some great stuff in Manhattan. I have some stuff upstate New York that
Mhm.
actually, you and I both can hopefully kind of work on, which is also another great escape. We're seeing that really, people heading into the mountains, heading by some lakefront properties, and it's just so
Right.
beautiful. You know, 90 miles out of the city, less than that, and here was I went out to the Hamptons with my wife over the weekend, and it took us about 3 hours to get out there. And I'm saying to myself, there's a beautiful house upstate. It was only about two
You
hours.
should buy it.
So
Yeah, you should buy it.
that's
It's
right.
nice. It's a
Yeah,
beautiful piece of
yeah,
property, and I tell you, you're away from all the crowds, right? You're away. I mean, I mean, from the crime. Unfortunately, I think I was up in New York not too long ago for an Inman conference up there.
yeah,
I'm glad to see the city coming back, but yeah, it's you got some things to work on over there, and it's just like everywhere else across the country, and unfortunately, it was been a terrible week. I think we want to extend our condolences to the family in Texas that they lost their loved ones. That was just a terrible tragedy, and things got to change. I mean, for the better in this country. There's no doubt
yeah,
about that. But listen,
for
Daniel,
sure.
thank you so much for giving us some insight in New York, and I'm looking forward for the second quarter update. And hopefully, we won't have so much of a technical issue, but I definitely appreciate your time.
Likewise, Lou. Always great being with you. Appreciate it. Have a great Memorial Day weekend, and look forward to catching up soon.
All right, sir. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.